Hey there, Dustin here. Just want to shoot a quick video on replacing the O-rings and overhauling a Corney Keg. Got my O-ring kit here. Cost whopping $4.95. I think I got it from morebeer.com, but I actually picked it up at their store. So over the course of this video, what we're going to do is replace your the out O-ring here. This is where the beer comes out. This is the in O-ring. Where the beer comes in, you can see, maybe inside the keg here, there's no dip tube there. If I swing the keg around, you can see there is a dip tube on that side. This Corney's I've used it for quite a few years. It's clean right now, but today we're going to replace the O-rings, replace the main O-rings for the lid, and clean it. So for this project, you're only going to need two tools. One is a 7/8 inch socket, standard socket, and you could even get by with just a 7/8 inch wrench, but I prefer a socket for one side. And then you will need a 7/8 wrench with a 12-point end on it. You can see that's a 12-point end here versus that's called a 6-point. The reason you're going to need that is that's 6-point side on your out, and on the end on some of these kegs you've got this 12-point setup that obviously the 6-point socket won't fit on. So your first step is going to be go ahead and take off the out port, jump on here and break it loose, and you heard me break it loose there, and you see I've got it loosened up. I'm going to grab my wrench and jump on this other port, and I've pre-loosened this, and I have it now to the point I can get it with my fingers. So pull this out of here. You can see right there's our other O-ring on this keg, and this actually looks quite clean. And go ahead and take the dip tube out. Yeah, looks pretty clean as well. It's got a little nasty on there, but so I'm reaching inside the keg now and actually grabbing the dip tube with my hand and pulling up. And you see now the dip tube is starting to extend out of the tank. And voila, there you go. Now's the time. Some people like to cut their dip tube a little bit at the bottom, maybe take off a half an inch or inch or so, I've read. I don't personally. There's a little dip in the bottom of the keg and the dip tube sets down in that. Some people feel that if you cut back an inch or so, you don't pick up as much yeast. I treat my beer with gelatin, so all my yeast comes out in the first couple cups I serve. So here I'm going to go ahead and remove this O-ring. See, this one's actually got a little damage on it. Doesn't affect how it works, but I've never noticed it before. It looks like I slammed something down on top of it. So to get this out, I'm just going to reach underneath of it and pop it up. I'm going to go ahead and just destroy this one because I'm not going to reuse it. So I'm actually going to puncture it and then just pull it off like that. If you're going to reuse them, be a little bit more kind to them and get them off without damaging them. So there's one. Here's my next one, and I'll try to be a little bit more cautious with this one. You see, if you run in sideways, you actually start getting the O-ring to pop up a bit, then you can just reach underneath it. And you can see on this one I haven't damaged him. Pulled him right off. So like I say, you don't need this tool. You can use a paper clip or a wife's bobby pin or anything like that. So now we've got both our inlet and our outlet cleaned up. And our next task is going to be down here actually on the keg itself, to remove these little O-rings here. You can see that one just sits there. Obviously that's easy to take off, which I just did. And then this guy here. Yeah, so now we're going to work on our the gas in fitting O-ring. There's a small dip tube. Oh, you see it pop up there. I was pushing it from the bottom and just let go. I'm happy to catch it. But yeah, there she is. Alright, the next step I like to do on changing the O-rings is give everything a nice little star sand bath, clean everything up. You don't get into these areas too often unless you're doing O-rings, and what I've done here is taken the poppet out of this side. You can see right on through now. To do this, flip it over and whack it a few times and it falls out, or you might have to push it with a screwdriver, your awl, or maybe that paper clip you were using. From here I'm going to take my two little poppet valves and the taps themselves, my gas in, and run this over here. I've got a tank of Star Sand going here. It's probably, yeah, so I've got my Star Sand going over there warm, and I keep a sponge in it. What I like to do is take my sponge and just give everything on top of the keg a little pre-soak with the Star Sand. I'm not going to scrub on it right now. I'm just putting some Star Sand on here to loosen things up. And in fact, I'm going to go grab one more sponge full of Star Sand and put on and let it soak for a bit, and then I'll give it a scrub down. So I finally cleaned the top here. I let it set with the Star Sand on for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then I came back, and what I like to do is I like to wrap the sponge around the fitting here and kind of rotate it back and forth, and then also work down on the hole where those inserts that, on one side you've got the dip tube and on the other side you've got the little CO2 tube. And then the other area I like to hit is kind of back behind where the tubes block on both sides. Those often get neglected when you're cleaning because you just can't get a tool back there, and it's hard to get your hands back there, or anything back there. So, on the inside I've cleaned this whole strip here quite well, and then, down the outside where the dip tube goes. And, getting ready to put things back together. So our first step going back together is to take the O-rings, and I've got the O-rings. I've given them a little dosage of Star Sand just to clean them up a bit, if you don't know where they've been. Some people might not want to do that. They think that the Star Sand might break down the O-ring. I can afford $4.50 to replace them. I've got everything else going in here. You can see I've got the actual lid. And just letting it soak. So here in a bit I'll pull this out and start the reassembly process. So back here again, first step of reassembly is putting your actual O-rings back on the dip tube and the CO2 tube. So your first step here is just take this, and I like to just slide it right up the dip tube and the O-ring before I put them back in the keg. So you see I put the CO2 one back on. Do another swish in the Star Sand. And grab my dip tube here. And start way down here on the other end. And I did swish just a little bit of Star Sand on this outside the view of the camera, just for lubrication. And you can see I'm sliding up here to the top. Before I slide it up to the top, I'm going to make sure I get all my hairs from the Brillo pad on the sponge. There's still some green stuff that tends to get stuck on there, and I like to have a nice clean fitting, nice clean fit there. And you can see, voila, put that O-ring right up to the end. So the dip tube and the CO2 tube are ready to go back in. From here, come back down to the keg, and obviously the dip tube goes on the outside, so I'm going to stick it in. Kind of work it. It's a little bit tricky to get around that little curve there. And as you drop it back in, the only thing you have to look at is to make sure, see if I can get some light in here for you, that the dip tube is down in the very center in that little recessed area in the bottom of the keg. And as I was pushing down, I did twist it and cheated and stuck it right in there. So next is the CO2 fitting, and that should go in the inside. And dropped it right in there, so all that looks wonderful. Just looking here, got a little burr or something here. I'm trying to, rub off with my finger. Got it off. And next step will be to reassemble our valves and drop the poppets back into them. So back here, said we're going to assemble our valve tops, and first step is to put the O-ring back on the outside that actually mates with either the beer or the gas line. You should take a look and just make sure that you don't have any crap going in this groove here. And this groove tends to see a lot of beer, see a lot of liquids from the fridge. And then I've got my O-ring. Real simply, just going to slide it right over with my fingers, popped on there. And then I've got my poppet valve. Take it and basically just drop it right in to the unit. And if you take a look, when it's seated correctly, the top of it kind of comes up and makes a flush surface with the top surface of the nipple itself. Grab my other one here and stick it together, and then we'll go back together with the keg itself. So first step, again, stick your O-ring back on, voila. And yeah, while we were off camera here, I did have these soaking in star sand for about 20 minutes and clean them with a brush. So the next step here is actually putting things back together, where our nipples will go back on the little bungs on the outside of the keg. Here we go with reassembly. You can see I've got the nipple that had the 12-point connection on it. That's our in connection. I'm going to set it on here. The thing you have to look at, and it happened to work out perfectly here, the little poppet shot right back up in the correct spot. You don't want to get that poppet kind of cattywampus in there and then have that thing jam on you. So now I've got the actual 6-point, and that one was on the out, if you recall, and drop it back on here. And you can see, actually I've got an issue with the poppet there. It didn't quite set up straight. I'm going to pull it back off and look this over one more time just to see what's going on. So I've got the issue sorted out with the poppet over here with both hands, one not on the camera. It went right in the next time. So your next step here is to torque these two down, and you know, for that you're back to using your wrench again, and you know, just remember righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Doesn't take a tremendous amount on these things, but you do need to get them torqued down. So I'm going to drop off here again, torque these down, and then I'll be back with you for the final steps. Yeah, I was talking about the areas that we miss on these things, and yeah, on this particular keg you can remove the poppet valve out of the CO2 bleed. And some of mine is welded in, some of it's not. This one happens to unscrew, so I unscrewed it here, and it looks nice and clean. So just giving it a swish in the star sand and put it back in. So the last step of this process is doing your little cleanup and overhaul on the lid. I've got this the O-ring here. I've had it start soaking in star sand as well. One thing I do like to do is open the airlock here. You can see I've got the actual key turned sideways. So if I do pick up some star sand in here, it'll drain right through there and clean the inside of there. I think that's one of the areas we probably miss when we're cleaning these things. Not that I've ever had an infection, but I don't want one. So I keep those quite clean. So the last step here is taking our big O-ring and putting it around here. I can't do it with one hand. I'm sure if I took it over the top, maybe I could get it on there with one hand. But it's pretty easy to do. I'm going to stick that on and put my star sand in the actual keg and let it swish around a little bit and clean in there, and then call this quits. So that's it. The whole process took less than an hour. Even with the soaking, probably 15 minutes of working time, 20 minutes of soaking time, and you got a fresh new keg that doesn't leak on you and not going to infect you. Hope you enjoyed it.